someone calls for training that they're going to pay for training.
Tell myself a bunch of times. Leave me alone.
Wow. If a country and a population was being deliberately destroyed from the inside, that's exactly how it would look, because that's exactly what's happening here. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Zurgadowski here of wearechange.org, and there is just absolute pandemonium in the streets, especially in major Democratic areas all throughout the United States, as it's fair to say things are getting crazier, and they're going to get a lot crazier from here, as we have a lot of wild news to get into today, not just specifically talking about the mental derangement of the local population here, lots of business news, lots of things related to, of course, the story of the decade here that we have to be very careful about with how we describe on this particular broadcast. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, you could get it on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. And the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast, I originally saw on Daily Loud on Twitter. Now, I don't know if this is them shooting this video. It looks like it came from an @Dario Supremo that detailed the street full of addicts in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as a lot of street junkies are moving towards enhancing their sedatives with a new drug called Trank. Along with that and fentanyl, we pretty much have a huge fifth generational warfare on our hands that is destroying the population of the United States and the Western world so it could become more easily conquerable, as it's literally destroying itself from the inside, as major popular institutions are incentivizing population control measures like people sterilizing themselves, Target being one of those multinational corporations incentivizing the destruction of future generations of this country. This, as the backlash against them has cost an estimated $9 billion. Anheuser-Busch is also in trouble, as they have lost an estimated $15.7 billion as they are trying to work with Harley-Davidson right now in order to try to rebrand their tarnished image, as many people are even talking about a boycott of Harley-Davidson. This, as of course, private businesses are incentivized to provide you a good service, because if they don't, and if they represent a brand, an image, and a marketing term that of course doesn't resonate with its customer base, it just doesn't buy those items. And if a business doesn't sell enough items, it goes out of business, and rightfully so. And this is why businesses are incentivized to represent their audience, provide a good service, and of course be there for their customer base, which is the exact opposite of what the US government does, that absolutely has no incentive at all or fair market competition to provide you any kind of good service, as they are great at spending your money at frivolous projects, stealing more of your money for them, and just being absolutely incompetent to the point of spending way too much money that they do not have. This, as America's debt ceiling has just reached a deal between the Democrats and the Republicans that just on principle agreed to raise a $31.4 trillion debt limit for 2 years, just so they could have more money to spend, as of course they overspent. Now, if a business or a family spends too much money that they don't have, if they get into too much debt, you can't just magically say, well, we're just gonna have more debt. No. Everyone else doesn't play by these made up magical fairy tale rules, but the U.S. government does. Oh yeah, don't worry about it. We're just going to, of course, make sure that we get indebted more to make sure that, of course, the U.S. government has money to finance and funnel into causes and institutions like Black Lives Matter that, of course, have been using the funds in order to personally enrich themselves in many instances, according to all the news reports going around right now with their luxury homes and extravagant family-related contracts that enriched people around them. This as Time Warner, by the way, just dumped the BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors since she produced zero content after 2 years after promising to, quote, create original shows sharing Black stories. And if the government doesn't get indebted more, where else will they find the money for luxury hotels inside of New York City, where their new voting base that they're replacing with the current population will be able to come in and do whatever they want to in? As of course, there are reports of a lot of inappropriate behavior happening in the hotels that are financed by tax dollars for new arriving migrants. That's incentivizing some debaucherous behavior. Where else would the U.S. government get enough money to, of course, criminalize and go after everyday Americans, making them felons overnight by making up rules and laws out of nowhere, as the ATF is set to enforce a new made-up arbitrary rule against pistol braces, which they previously said was okay to own, made their own rules and exemptions surrounding it, and now they're saying, well, if you own it, you soon might be a felon. This as we're finding out that a Fifth Circuit court just clarified an injunction against this arbitrary rule by announcing that if you're a member of the Firearms Policy Coalition, you somehow are not going to be affected by this arbitrary rule. Yeah, lots of really confusing things going on there, as of course the court proceedings are ongoing. And if the government doesn't have enough money, where else will they hire the 80,000 plus IRS agents that will be going after political dissidents and journalists who dare to, of course, question the establishment narratives, just like the IRS that opened up a tax investigation on Matt Taibbi, a famous journalist who the IRS decided to investigate on Christmas Eve following his participation in the Twitter files dump, which of course heavily criticized the U.S. government and their larger involvement in spying, tracking, censoring, and destroying speech inside of the United States, clearly violating the First Amendment. This says, of course, what could go wrong with, of course, being indebted just a couple $1 trillion more. All of this as, of course, Germany is officially entering into a recession and following what many people call an economic collapse. And before the economy crashes, make sure you get your shirts on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Cheap, cheesy plug, but hey, we got to pay the bills around here, and this is one amazing, incredible way to do it. As, of course, when we were shut down by YouTube a few years ago, our main source of income was taken away, so we said, screw it. We're just going to create another source of income. That other source of income is thebestpoliticalshirts.com, where you could get incredible messages of resilience, resistance, and renaissance on your physical body by representing political messages that, of course, could be censored online, are censored in many instances online. Some of the shirts we can't show you here on this particular broadcast, but you can go to thebestpoliticalshirts.com, get yourself a shirt, wear it in the general public, wear it at the supermarket, wear it at the bank, wear it going for a walk, and actually start some really amazing conversations, find like-minded individuals, and more importantly, let people know out there that they are not alone in their discontent when it comes to, of course, being just bamboozled by the establishment and system that takes advantage of our ignorance. The shirt that I have on right now, I was wearing yesterday at the Miami Memorial Day celebrations, and I got a lot of compliments. I got a lot of high fives. I got a lot of people coming up to me being, I love this shirt. A lot of very prominent individuals have been, buying these shirts, wearing them out to their audiences, doing videos with them too. And it's amazing to see these larger ideas, which again, resonate with people from all over the political spectrum and backgrounds that you could very easily reach out to and of course talk to, be friends with. And it's not just long sleeves that we have. We also have women's shirts. We also have tank tops. We also have hoodies. We also have hats. You name it. We got it. All on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. And if you're bored, I think it's just worth scrolling through just to see the larger ideas and concepts that we have available to you only on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Get a shirt right now before, the dollar collapses and the system is exposed for running an international trafficking and extortion operation, which they have been doing for over 30 plus years that we know of on the record. As, of course, the official story to what's been happening with the Mr. Epstein is still mainly in the shadows, as a lot of the figures surrounding this particular story have had very unfortunate demises to their lives. This is the latest story that we're finding out that the very close associate to the Clintons, who of course was the individual that signed in Mr. Epstein into the White House in the 90s many times, met a very questionable, unfortunate end to his life. The official story of exactly what happened here has been questioned by many individuals, and of course we're talking about top Clinton advisor Mark Middleton that allegedly took his life at the age of 59 on May 7th of this year, taking his life in a very particular strange way, as somehow there was a shotgun blast to the chest and a hanging that was supposedly happening at the same time. This, as we still do not know the details of what was really going on here, as those details right now are being kept away from the general public, as the family of this individual has blocked the release of the details, leaving people with, of course, many questions of what actually happened here. As again, this man knew a lot more to the relationship between Mr. Epstein and the Clintons than a lot of other people did. He had a lot of probably explosive information, a lot of details that are still not privy to the general public, and with him no longer being here with us, it also ensures that a lot of those details, a lot of those secrets stay with the individuals involved here, those individuals, particularly the Clintons, that are very well connected to this individual that was doing very horrible, unspeakable things to children too. This, as of course, all of them were connected to intelligence agencies, as even the former head director of the CIA since 2021 had at least 3 meetings with Mr. Epstein that we know of, as he was also a deputy secretary of state. Why was he meeting with Epstein on numerous occasions? Well, that's a story that, of course, a lot of people should be asking themselves here, as a lot of very powerful individuals were involved here, including, of course, Mr. Bill Gates, that we found out recently was being extorted by Epstein with the secret information that he was hooking up with a younger Russian lover that also is connected to Russian spy agencies. This, as of course, a lot of international spy agencies are involved here, not just from the United States, not just from Israel, but also, of course, Russia. It's like a spy versus spy world with many interconnected agencies, agents, double agents, triple agents. Who was involved here? What was really going on here? Well, I think it's fair to say that Mr. Epstein had some very interesting dirt on Mr. Gates that he was exploiting, which I think we're only beginning to scratch the surface of here. Now, how did Russia play a role here? Well, that's a very interesting question, as of course we know for a fact that major financial institutions in the West were absolutely involved here, as we're finding out from the latest Epstein JP Morgan court trial that's going on right now in the United States, that we're finding out today that JP Morgan and Chase knew on record that Mr. Epstein was trafficking, extorting, and hurting children, but continued to meet with him years after knowing so, and allowing him, on many instances, to use their financial institutions in order to continue what most likely was this international trafficking and extortion operation that JP Morgan and Chase and other financial institutions were looking the other way of, as they knew most likely the funds were being used to hurt a lot of children here. And we're talking about thousands of children here. And we're talking about millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that were being moved around without any kind of scrutiny, without any kind of regulations, without any kind of rules, without any kind of laws, as he was able to do whatever he wanted to. Why? Well, probably because he was a man of intelligence. This, as CNBC is reporting today, that JP Morgan and Chase CEO Jamie Dimon is testifying that he had no involvement with Mr. Epstein or his account. Is that true? Well, Whitney Webb has a different scenario, as she previously wrote a very interesting article titled The Rise of Jamie Dimon, with her byline reading, as JP Morgan's ties to Epstein are being scrutinized in court, Whitney Webb reveals how the same powerful players who brought Epstein to prominence were largely responsible for the rise of JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon. The This article was released on March 27th. Definitely worth a read, and definitely talks about some very long, extensive ties in a very detailed article that does some great investigative journalism, connecting the dots on some very powerful individuals and institutions that do a lot of their work in the shadows and definitely don't want any kind of public scrutiny. And that's why, if you found this video important, share this video with your friends and family members. That is more imperative than ever. Lots of crazy stuff out there. It's only going to get crazier, and we still are just aware of just, I would say, 1 to 5% of exactly what was going on here. What was really happening here? Well, those secrets lie with the intelligence agencies that, of course, are keeping their cards close and aren't revealing any kind of real information surrounding this absolutely crazy story, the story of the decade that many powerful people want to go away. Let's make sure that it doesn't. Thank you so much for sharing these videos, being here with me, buying the t-shirts, because if it wasn't for you guys doing that, I wouldn't be here, and I'm only here because of you, and that's why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.